Just a quick note before I start. It seems like I always say that. I always have something to say before I actually say the things that I want to say. A lot of you have thoughtfully asked about my eye and expressed sympathy or wonder about what's happening. So a quick update on my eye. First of all, it's appreciated. Your thoughts and prayers are not necessary, but the thoughts are nice. A quick update on my eye. What happened was I've been to the doctor many times. It's actually like a vision center here in Cuernavaca. I've been there 3 or 4 times now. And I have to go back again this Friday. And I guess what happened was, not I guess, what happened was, it's a fact. I'll try to keep this brief, and then I'll talk about earth, wind, and fire. In 2014, I had really, really bad cataracts in both eyes. I was only 44 years old at the time, which is very young. And they were serious cataracts too. I was 50% blind in both eyes. So I had to have cataract surgery. And what they do in the cataract surgery is they remove the lenses that you're born with that are infected or infested or that have the cataracts. They remove them. They're gone. You say goodbye to them, and they put in basically prosthetic lenses. So I'm like Steve Austin, not the Stone Cold Steve Austin, the wrestler, but the $6 million man, Steve Austin. I have bionic eyes. Have had them since 2014. And what happened was the lenses are, I mean, I'm showing like this. They're really almost microscopic. I didn't know this until I went to the doctor and he told me this. The lenses are like this, and apparently they sit on like a little, like 2 legs. He said they're like feet or legs or something. I guess just like your television, has a stand or something. And what happened was one of the legs kind of flipped out or kicked out or something, which is what caused the, what's the word? Some kind of a hemorrhage, vitriol hemorrhage, something like that. For 4th grade or 4th level, which is the worst kind of hemorrhage, my eye was filled with blood. And so that's what it was, that it was pressing the little leg that had kicked out from the lens, and my prosthetic lens was pressing against my iris, which was causing the pain, and which was caused my eye to be filled with blood. So much so that the first doctor saw me, he said he couldn't even see inside my eye because there's so much blood. So they did a bunch of tests to rule out cancer or tumors or anything like that, which it wasn't. Last Saturday, I went for like 2 hours of tests and all kinds of stuff, kind of cool stuff. It's not like painful or uncomfortable stuff. The eye is very sensitive, but it was cool stuff. I'm going this Friday to get the results of that. Just to, I'm not sure, to be honest, but that's the problem with my eye is it's not solved, but at least I know the reason now. It wasn't cancer, it wasn't tumor, nothing bad like that. I can see pretty much normal. I have a lot of black floaters, which are very distracting. When I read, that eye chart, the whatever the letters are, they start off like this and they get smaller. I could read down to the second to last. I'm probably in medical journals because of this. These doctors are probably calling all their friends saying, "You should have seen this guy that came in today. This guy could read like nobody we've ever seen before." So my vision is great, but I have these floaters which are distracting, and it's a tiny bit foggy, not blurry but foggy. So that was way too long. That was probably about 4 minutes just to talk about my eye problem. Thank you all for your concern. I think I'll be okay. Now to talk about Earth, Wind, and Fire. And I'll show it right here to not prolong the suspense. There's Earth, Wind, and Fire. This album is called I Am. This is a request. This is for a guy called Kirk Desmond. Hello, Kirk. He now I've never taken requests to do these because it's I want to talk about this album. It's not like you tell me to talk about the album and I'll do it. It's that I want to. And I've never wanted to talk about an Earth, Wind, and Fire album. But Kirk, he didn't request it. He just said he would like to see me talk about it. So what I'm going to explain is, for those who didn't see my other video a couple of weeks ago, I'm not an Earth, Wind, and Fire fan at all. I always start with my history with these bands that I talk about. I really have no history with Earth, Wind, and Fire, or had no history until a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. It was Saturday. It was the 12th or 13th, something like that. And I'd gone to see Helmet the night before in Mexico City. I was in my, I stayed overnight. I was in my hotel on Saturday morning, and I got an ad on like one of these sponsored things on Facebook for that Earth, Wind, and Fire was playing in Mexico City that night. And I hadn't heard about it. And Lilia, my ex-wife, is a big Earth, Wind, and Fire fan. She loves them. So I forwarded that to her. I sent her. I said, hey, look at this. Thinking that she was going to say, oh, cool, or oh, yeah, I used to love them, or I wish I could go. It's too short notice, something like that. She was in Cuernavaca. This was in Mexico City. I was in Mexico City at the hotel. The concert, of course, was in Mexico City. And so I was expecting her to just kind of say, oh, okay, cool. And what happened was she messaged me back. She said, OMG. She said, I'm freaking out. She said, I have to see this. And I was kind of surprised that she had such a strong reaction. And she said, like, how can I do this? How can we do this? How can I do it? I want to go. And so we and I'm very good at this. I suck at a lot of things, but I'm great at making plans. Like Hannibal, not Hannibal Lecter, whatever the guy Hannibal from the A-Team was. He loves it when a plan comes together. That's me. I'm great at planning. And so we messaged back and forth, and I said, if you want to go, I'll go with you, even though I couldn't name a single Earth, Wind, and Fire song. I like going to concerts, and I like seeing not new bands, but bands that are new to me, a different experience, especially at this point. Earth, Wind, and Fire are legends, obviously. I do know that. So after some planning, she was all the way in Cuernavaca. I was in Mexico City. The concert was in Mexico City. I've mentioned that. I think that's the third time. She had to take a bus there because our car can't. We still share a car. The car can't drive there on Saturdays. So I checked the bus schedules for her. I checked tickets to make sure tickets were available, which they were. How much they were, and she said, "Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm not going to do it. We would have to. It's going to be a long day, and then to come back, we couldn't come back because the concert was going to end too late to take a bus back to Cuernavaca. So I said, if you want, I'll get this hotel room for one more night, and we can get tickets at the box office, and we're good." So she said, "Yeah." So she came. It was great. We had. I was going from my hotel. I'm getting off topic here. I was going from my hotel to El Chopo, which is in a totally different part of the city, and then from El Chopo to go meet my friend Rick for lunch that day. And then I was going to meet Lilia at 5 o'clock at the metro station outside the hotel. So we agreed on 5 o'clock. So after all that this was around 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. After all that monkeying around, I took the subway to El Chopo, then walked an hour from El Chopo to meet my friend Rick for lunch. Lilia was coming from her house. She had to go to the bus station here. She had to take the bus to Mexico City, then take 2 trains to meet me at 5 o'clock at the hotel, or at the metro station near the hotel. It's like a block from the hotel, and details are important. I got there at 4:57. She got there at 5 o'clock. She was on the train after me. Amazing timing. So we went to see Earth, Wind, and Fire, and I talked about all this in the video. If you want to go see the merch tour of Earth, Wind, and Fire. My history, I couldn't name a single Earth, Wind, and Fire song before that night. Lilia told me some of their songs, and she hummed them for me and sang them, and I knew them. Then when they played them, I knew some of them, but by song title, I didn't know one. I didn't know the names of any members of Earth, Wind, and Fire. I didn't know any of their album titles. I did when they played the concert, I recognized there were maybe 4 or 5 songs that I recognized, including the first one, which was, as it turns out, I didn't know the title of it, and I didn't know it was Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's called Shining Star, and if I'm a big fan of anything, forget about Kiss and anything like that. I'm a massive Seinfeld fan, and so they opened with the song called Shining Star, which I didn't know was called Shining Star. Didn't know it was Earth, Wind, and Fire, and it was the song that Elaine dances poorly to in the episode called The Little Kicks. So they opened with that. I said, hey, this is the song that Elaine dances to in the Seinfeld episode. That is my history of Earth, Wind, and Fire. So I posted the video of my merch tour, and this guy, Kirk, said that he would like to hear me talk about Earth, Wind, and Fire. The problem was I didn't have any Earth, Wind, and Fire albums or CDs. I've never spent 1 cent on them. A little thing about stupid thing, very Mexican. When we went to buy tickets at the box office for the concert that night, Mexico's a weird country, man. They only took credit cards at the box office, which is fine because I was going to pay with credit cards, with my credit card. But they wouldn't take a credit card unless you had photo ID. The problem was my photo ID was at the hotel. The hotel keeps your ID, I guess, like as collateral. And so I couldn't buy the tickets. Lilia, fortunately, came through with her card. She doesn't always have it, or she doesn't have enough debit or credit on it or whatever. So we almost didn't go to see, after all that planning and everything, it almost fell through. So Kirk said he would like to see me talk about Earth, Wind & Fire. And I thought, I like when I go to see a concert, to then get into a band. Usually it's bands that I like and I listen to them a lot. But I thought this can be my introduction to Earth, Wind & Fire. So I did find this one, I Am. And if you're wondering why I chose this one, that's why. The only reason I chose this one was because it was the cheapest one. There were a few that they had. As I said, I don't know what their famous album is, their signature album, what's considered by fans to be their best album or with their biggest hits. I bought this one because it was the cheapest. I thought, I'm going to do this for Kirk. If I'm going to talk about one, it may as well be the cheapest one. And it turns out that this is, I guess, a somewhat highly regarded album. This came out in 1979. And I really don't have too much to say. I've listened to it a couple of times. I'm going to cheat. This is going to be the first and probably only episode of this series where I had to take notes. All the other ones I talk about, these are albums I've been listening to for years, and I have a lot usually to say about them. I don't need notes. It's all up here. But this one, I didn't know anything. I had to write notes, and the notes are so stupid. They were just because I'm not familiar enough with them. So I had to write some little notes here to remind me of what to say about. Now, this is, to be honest, I don't know if I'll ever listen to this album again, aside from the 2 times I've listened to it recently. It's not that it's not that it's bad music. It's just not for me. It's not the kind of music that I like. I don't know what else to say. But I'm glad I went to the concert, and I guess glad that I bought the CD. One more to add to the collection for whatever that is worth. So going through the track listing here, I'll show it one more time because I'm going to read from my notes. This is I Am, came out in 1979. I believe I mentioned that. The first song is called In the Stone. I don't have much to say about these songs individually. I just thought that the intro of it, before the vocals come in, seemed kind of big and dramatic. I guess a good opening song. It had big horns, very dramatic. And as it turns out, I guess it was one of their big songs because I looked at their set list from when I saw them in Mexico City a couple weeks ago, and that was their encore, their finale. They closed with In the Stone. So I guess that's a popular song. Next one is Can't Let Go. I don't know what else to say about that, just that it was kind of an up-tempo. I don't know, what is Earth, Wind & Fire? Disco, funk, soul. To me, I've always thought of them as disco. But Can't Let Go, I guess, was an up-tempo disco song, I guess is all I can say about that. After the Love Has Gone, I had never heard that song before, but based on the title alone, I figured it was a ballad, and it was right. It's kind of funny how it's easy to figure out a lot of songs, depending on the band, what kind of song it's going to be, just based on the title. So After the Love Has Gone, it's a ballad, of course. Nothing else to say. Next one, number 4, Let Your Feelings Show. That was kind of just a funky song, up-tempo, I guess, again. I guess a good disco dance song. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. When I was a kid, I was probably 8 or 9 years old, maybe. This was in the 70s. I took disco dancing classes or lessons. I remember they were in my school. It was extracurricular. I went there at night a couple times a week and learned how to disco dance. I've since forgotten, but I did take disco. This song almost made me want to break out my disco moves again from when I was 8 or 9 years old. The next one, Boogie Wonderland. This was one of the ones that I was familiar with when they played it live. I recognized that one, and I think that was the only. I think those were the only two. In the Stone and Boogie Wonderland were the only two that they played from this album. And I knew September, although I didn't know the title of it. And I knew Shining Star, didn't know the title of it. So Boogie Wonderland. Next is just called Star. The only thing that stood out to me about this one, if you want my in-depth analysis, was that it had a notable trumpet solo. I typically don't listen to music that has trumpets, especially trumpet solos, but Star by Earth, Wind and Fire on the album called I Am from 1979 has a trumpet solo. There you go. Wait, not the White Lion song from that album was called Pride, I think in 1988 or something. No. This was another ballad. Again, you can probably tell by the ballad, Wait, that it was a ballad. Nothing else to say about that one either. Next is Rock That! Exclamation point. So it's not just Rock That, it's Rock That! Exclamation point. This one to me sounded like, and by the way, when I was listening to this album, I was listening on my stereo, but I had Google open on my phone, and I read all the lyrics as I was going along. And when I read the lyrics, when I Googled the lyrics for Rock That, they came up, and then I listened to the song, and I thought, oh, this kind of cool song. Sounds like a TV show from the 70s, maybe 80s, something like that. And then the lyrics didn't kick in. And then the song was over, and there were no lyrics. So it turns out that it's an instrumental. I don't know what, if you Google Rock That by Earth, Wind and Fire, there are lyrics for something about violence and men and war and peace, and that men are men of peace are being killed. I don't know what it was, what those lyrics applied to, but that's what I got. Now, something about this album I did notice as I was looking at the liner notes, because I do love reading liner notes. That's one of the good things about buying CDs. There were two familiar names. Oh, it's so hard to get these things out sometimes. Two familiar names on this one were Steve Lukather. Steve Lukather, which they spelled his name wrong. His name is spelled as Steve Lukather, but it's Steve Lukather from Toto. And Steve Porcaro, both those guys were from Toto, Africa, and not Susanna, Rosanna. It doesn't say what songs they played on. This was the only song I noticed. I like guitar, of course, because I like heavy metal and rock, so guitar stands out. This one had a guitar solo. I assume that was Steve Lukather, who also played on, I think he played on Thriller, I think on every song, maybe except Beat It. I guess he's played on lots and lots of records. Steve Lukather from Toto. But it turns out that it is an instrumental. Google says otherwise. I'll put that away later. And then the last one is called You and I. And again, it's a ballad. Probably predictable also with the title like You and I, that it's that it was a ballad. And there's the apparently this is the cover. It says right there, so it's not apparently the cover of the single of Boogie Wonderland. So that's all I have to say about the Earth, Wind and Fire. I Am. Thank you, Kirk, for the not the request but the suggestion. Kirk is a long time, I think, and loyal Dan Bowski supporter. He always makes interesting comments, just like George Costanza. He makes good comments, and I appreciate. And if you like to see the CD, there it is there. And there's the back cover, and there's the front cover. So I don't know what album I'm going to talk about next, but I think I'll have more to say about whatever it is than I had to say today about Earth, Wind and Fire, I Am.